Hey, Oklahoma State, this is where the cowboy rides away.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans, and welcome into another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and The Cam Show on YouTube, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Thank you for making this your first listen today and every day. We have got the homecoming recap. The Bears get the win over Oklahoma State. Huge day for Dawson Pendergrass. They make Ollie Gordon lose his mind after the game and during the game too. All in all, a pretty great weekend. We've got all in that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Whoo, doggy. Fun win for the Baylor Bears on homecoming Saturday. They take down Oklahoma State 38-28, essentially ending the Cowboys season in a lot of ways. They now move to 0-5 in the Big 12, and their bowl streak of 18, 19 years in a row is hanging by a thread at 3-5. Bears take them out by 10. And for me, the story of the game was a running back, but it was not Baylor's. The story of the game for me was Ollie Gordon on the other side. Now, we'll talk about Dawson Pendergrass' huge day, but Ollie Gordon, the Doak Walker Award winner last year, led the nation in rushing yards, comes in as maybe the best running back in the country coming into this 2024 season, a popular pick to win the Heisman Trophy or at least be at that ceremony in New York. The Baylor Bears had him in hell on Saturday. In hell. The kid, you look at the stat line. Look, he gets a couple of touchdowns, right? Two short yardage touchdowns. He has a touchdown, a 2-point conversion throw. So he makes some impact on the game. But more often than not, it was pure frustration that he was running into. And so much of it was coming at the hands of Baylor super senior Matt Jones, who they were just jawing back and forth every play from the jump. And here's what Matt Jones had to say about that after the game.
What was going on with you and Ollie? It seemed like a nice back and forth.
Yeah, no, that's just pure competition, competitive. He's a great player. I respect him a lot. He's one of the best backs in the nation. He's gonna talk. The best players talk. Talking on the field, it helps you. It keeps you going. It's just all competition, and I got a lot of respect for him. But we came out on top, and that's how we're supposed to do it.
He did come out on top. Ollie Gordon, 18 carries for 77 yards on the game. Just could not find anything. This is the nation's leading rusher from a year ago, and you held him under 80 yards. Oh, and by the way, one of the big plays in this game in the first quarter, Ollie's about to go in for a touchdown, and Matt Jones punches the ball out, and once Steve Linton recovers, Matt Jones is letting Ollie know who knocked the ball out, letting him know, like in his face, letting him know. We saw Keaton Thomas in Ollie's face later in the game, just really getting animated with it. And it leads to this scene after the game of Ollie Gordon trying to get to the locker room, or his teammates trying to get to the locker room with the Baylor players about to celebrate with the fan section. And he needed to be restrained. Look at this.
Welcome back and celebrating the 2013-14 Big 12 championship teams and our Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame inductees. Thank you for attending today's game, and please drive home safely and sick 'em Bears.
Clearly they're trying to get at the Baylor guys, still jawing at him, jawing at fans. They're trying to, all the coaches are trying to get him to go in the locker room. The man looked possessed at the end of that game. What got into him? Man, if he had that kind of energy throughout the game, Oklahoma State might have stood a better chance. And I feel for Ollie because it's obviously not totally his fault when you look at what they've done in the run blocking this year. He's had the most yards in the country after first contact. So it's not like it's been him necessarily, but you're held under 80 yards. As long as 11 yards in that game. That's a huge win for the Baylor defense. And it's a win for Matt Jones, who was the guy who clearly took that personally and said, I'm going to be the guy that leads the charge in shutting down Ollie Gordon. And it's exactly what he did. This long lineage of Oklahoma State and their running backs, Thurman Thomas, Barry Sanders, even some of the guys we've seen recently, a Justice Hill, guys like that. It's like they've always got good backs back there in Stillwater. And this was the only one to win the Doak Walker Award, the only one. And the next year, Baylor's bottling him up and just putting him in a blender. That is one of the great Dave Aranda game plans. We talked earlier this year about trying to make someone look the way Caleb Williams did against Dave Aranda's defense a couple years ago. We haven't seen it at the quarterback position yet this year, but we've seen it at running back. That was a game plan that was tailored around bottling up Ollie Gordon, and that's exactly what they did. Thanks in large part to Matt Jones, who's been around this program a long time, and he had a pretty special reason for having such a great game on Saturday.
My grandpa, he never got to make it to a game, and then this past May he passed away, and I brought his ashes with me this game because I know he always wanted to make a game, so he brought his ashes with me. So just one of those things, the spirit, God, my papa, everyone is just, it's a big blessing. It's an honor. I couldn't be more blessed.
So Matt Jones goes out there, obviously a little bit extra motivation with that great story there about his grandfather and bringing the ashes with him in this game. And he goes out and he has one of the best games of his career. 12 total tackles, 10 of them solo, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, and a forced fumble at the goal line, taking 7 points off the board all by himself with that hit. And Steve Linton recovery too. But Matt Jones played like a man possessed in this game. His hair was on fire from moment one. I saw that. Mosley and I were sitting up in the press box, seeing that jawing going on between him and Ollie within the first couple of plays. And I tweeted it out. I was like, hey, something to look for. But also, so far, Matt Jones has been great. And he continued it all game long. And this is a guy who has been through it. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Sugar Bowl thing behind me, 2021. Matt Jones is in that picture of the Al Walcott pick six. He's playing in that game. He was a part of that 2021 team and a pretty good role player on that 2021 team. So he has seen what it looks like when Aranda ball is working and the Bears are winning football games. And he's been called on to be a leader the last few years. And now it looks like it's coming together. And he led by example on Saturday and just took out one of the best, most talented running backs in the entire country. Was it because Ollie Gordon single-handedly almost knocked his Permian Panthers out of the playoffs a few years ago while Matt Jones is already at Baylor? I don't know. But what a tribute for Matt Jones for his grandfather who never got to make it to a college game. That's a way to honor right there. That was incredible and leading by example. We're starting to see this Baylor team get some momentum. And when you are limiting Ollie Gordon to under 80 yards, that's a big reason why. So, by the way, I did love that for a split second before Baylor's band just had to play the fight song. After the clock hit zeros, McLean Stadium started playing Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. And that's a good bit of advice after Baylor takes out Oklahoma State by 10. It wasn't a flawless game, but it was darn near close, especially for Dawson Pendergrass. Let's talk about the impact he had on this game and whether this Baylor offense can keep it up. That's coming up next on Locked on Baylor. First, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Okay? Get ready to tackle all the NFL action this year with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a little hunch in the middle of the game and you're like, I'm going to hedge this, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dawson Pendergrass. Red Lightning, if you will. You guys remember Red Lightning? The ball boy for Florida State? 10 years ago now? It was a while ago. Running down the sideline, speed of light. He grew up to be Dawson Pendergrass. Feel old yet? Dawson Pendergrass. The man just waited for his moment. He's not always there when you call, but he's always on time. Dawson has been waiting for this moment for a few weeks now, and boy, did he take advantage of it against obviously a lackluster Oklahoma State defense, but a team that was desperate for a victory, that Cowboys unit, and Baylor just ran all over them. They as a team, they ran for 343 yards as opposed to Oklahoma State's 74. They outgained them by 270 yards on the ground, which makes it amazing it was even a 10-point game, to be totally honest with you. And it comes down to Dawson Pendergrass. 6 carries, 142 yards, and a touchdown. Let me repeat. 6 carries for 142 yards and a touchdown. 24 yards a carry. Is that good? It's not bad, right? To go 24 yards a carry for a whole game. I was stunned after the game to see that he only had 6 touches because every one of them was electric. We talked in the first segment about that Ollie Gordon fumble at the 1-yard line, right? So Baylor has to take over at the 1. You know, that's not a great place to be. You take a touchdown off the board, that's great, but you're in the shadow of your own goal line here. Well, first play, Dawson Pendergrass, 48 yards. Next play, Dawson Pendergrass, 39 yards, and then a touchdown. A 4-play drive, because there was an incompletion mixed in there, I lied. 4-play drive, 99 yards, a minute 36 off the clock, and 87 of them came from Dawson Pendergrass on that one drive. And then he has the incredible play to put the game on ice. Bears up 3. It's just under 5 minutes left, and you can't bring him down. He's like 9 yards in. He's got 4 guys around him, and suddenly 35 in green is running for the goal line. Dawson, what were you thinking going into that drive?
I just feel like it was just run through somebody's face. That was kind of the mentality we needed to go out there with.
Run through somebody's face. Well, you ran through like all 11 guys' faces there, Dawson. I mean, that was one of the best runs I've ever seen at a Baylor game. He's bottled up. There's no way. And Sidney Fugar, the transfer from South Carolina, should get an assist on that. I know you can't get an assist on a touchdown in football, but he keeps this thing moving. He almost like pulls Dawson out of it. And there he goes. Red Lightning, 55 yards, touchdown, game over. This is a guy who's been playing behind Bryson Washington. At times playing behind Richard Reese. He's played behind every running back on this roster at one time or another. And Bryson Washington is the guy. I mean, he is the feature back for this team, right? But I said a couple weeks ago, if you can get Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass as your kind of thunder and lightning, your John Lovett, Treston Ebner, if you will, that's a good situation for Baylor to have. And most weeks it is going to be Bryson Washington. I love the way he runs the ball. He hits that hole right away. He hits it with all he's got. But what you needed yesterday or Saturday against Oklahoma State was you needed a guy who was a little bit more patient because the holes were developing. And Dawson Pendergrass is patient. You know, that's not a bad thing. That's a very good thing a lot of the time for a running back. And that's what you saw with Pendergrass, a little bit with Richard Reese as well. They were patient. They found the holes. They got there. In fact, I even saw a video from our guy, Travis Roeder, who does a bunch of film breakdown for Baylor football the next day. And I think it was that 48-yard run from the 1-yard line where a guy for Oklahoma State, an outside linebacker, just closed the wrong gap. He had a guy coming off the edge to close that gap, and he didn't trust his teammate to get there. So he went and closed that one. Teammate cannot come into the point of attack, and all of a sudden this hole is there for Dawson Pendergrass. It's not there as soon as the ball is snapped, but the hole is there. Hits it, 48 yards. The rest is history. It's the most rushing yards for a Baylor running back this season. It is the first running back not named Bryson Washington to go over 100 yards. And it's the most yards per carry that I've ever seen with someone with more than 5 carries. What's funny, if you look at you can do like the adjusted yards, and the quarterbacks will get negative yards against them for a sack. So if you look at the Baylor side, top rusher, 6 carries for 142 yards, 24 yards a carry. Oklahoma State, bottom rusher, Alan Bowman, 4 attempts, negative 38 yards, negative 9.5 a carry, because obviously he doesn't run. And every sack was like catastrophic. Every sack was a huge loss. And Baylor used that to their advantage very much in this game. But Dawson Pendergrass, it's just another story on this Baylor team of a guy who waits his turn a little bit. I was saying Dawson Pendergrass should have been the number 1 back coming into this season. We didn't know the health of Bryson Washington. We didn't know exactly what he was going to be at this level. We didn't see a lot of Richard Reese last year. What we did see of Dominic Richardson was not great. So I was like, why not Dawson Pendergrass? Why is this just not your guy? And now, 8 weeks into the season, I think you've found your complement in the backfield. Obviously, there's going to be situations for a little bit of Richard Reese, a little bit of Dominic Richardson, I guess, even. And Reese had a decent game in this one. Again, not a ton of usage, but 6 carries for 52 yards. Like, that's not bad, right? But if you're looking at what you had in, let's say, 2021 as a better example than 2019, which I used earlier, in 2021, you had Abram Smith through the tackles, physical runner, finishing runs, and then you had the speed of Treston Ebner to bust things out to the outside and get big explosive plays with his speed and awareness and patience. That's what you've got with this running back right now, this running back room right now. Keenan Hall's running back room. You've got your Thunder and Bryson Washington doing the Abram Smith role, and you've got your Lightning in Dawson Pendergrass doing the Treston Ebner role. That's the last time Baylor was really successful, 2021. And this is not the same team, obviously, and they're not going to reach the same heights. But that's the blueprint. And by the way, everyone, both of those guys have multiple years of eligibility left. Pendergrass, true sophomore. Bryson Washington, redshirt freshman. And Sawyer Robertson, too, by the way, at quarterback with eligibility left. You're seeing the makings, the foundation of your offense for the next few years. They're a little bit more veteran-laden at receiver and pass catcher, but you're young in those skill positions, and you're still relatively young on the offensive line, especially with some of the guys you brought in, Fugard being one, Colton Thomason being one who has not seen the field this year, but a guy who was a 4-star 2 years ago out of high school. You know, you have got a good complement of young guys on this offense. And today, or this weekend, it was Dawson Pendergrass. Last weekend, it was Bryson Washington. Last weekend, it was also Sawyer Robertson. You know, and so each week it's somebody, and most of the time they're young. And this was, I mean, what a performance. You could have taken almost all the rest of the offense out of there, and you still would have won this game if you went to Dawson Pendergrass 15, 20 times. You didn't even need to go to the air. But, of course, go to the air they did. Sawyer Robertson had a good game as well. And now we look forward at this schedule where the only team that's 500 or above is the one you're facing next week. And boy, what a game that's going to be. Can Baylor sustain this style of offense going forward? Have they turned the corner at the offensive line position and in the running game? Let's talk about that coming up next on Locked On Baylor. Oh yeah, big game next week, and you are going to want to be at McLean Stadium. And the way that I get there when I'm buying tickets is through Gametime. It's the only place I go and buy my tickets. You can toggle the all-in pricing tool to see the price you are going to pay. None of the hidden fees that all the other places have. You can see your view from the seat. So you might say, ooh, I'm on the side with the sun. That can really wear me out and maybe cause me to leave the game early. And then you'll say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's a night game. I like that one. But all that to say, you can say that before you hit purchase. Plus, you get the lowest price guarantee. Your Gametime's going to credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. So, of course, now we look forward. it's been a good couple weeks for us to say, all right, we got that done. Who's next? And you're going to want to keep up with this entire Big 12 as it's anyone, any given week, any given Saturday, anyone can win in this league. So I would recommend check it out. Locked On Big 12 with Drake Toll every week, every day, bringing you all to keep you up to date with everything going on in the Big 12. Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football will do that for you as well, and keep an eye on everything going on around the country and where Baylor fits into all of this. And again, what we kind of touched on with Dawson Pendergrass specifically in the last segment is Baylor's found a running game, and they had not had that all year going into last weekend. And so is this sustainable? If it is, Baylor is looking at bowl eligibility and then some. But that's the question. Is this sustainable? Because the last 2 weeks, you have faced two of the worst running defenses in the whole conference, especially this week with Oklahoma State, who again was 60+ yards worse than the second worst rush defense in the entire conference. Tech stinks up front. Oklahoma State stinks up front, but Baylor made it happen with two different guys, by the way. And you look at the rest of the year, you've got a West Virginia team that's third in the conference in that category. You've got a Houston team that's sixth in the conference in that category. But next week, you have the 14th ranked rushing defense in the conference coming into Waco. Yeah. So granted, they're 85 yards better than Oklahoma State in that category. But now the Pokes are allowing 251 yards a game, which Baylor beat by 90 yards. And the next closest is Iowa State at 170. And then right after them, TCU at 166 per game. So, by the way, so you've got, so I mentioned the two in the top 10 in that category, West Virginia, Iowa State. The other two games on your schedule are TCU at 14th and Kansas at 12th. Both allow more than 150 yards per game. So yeah, there are opportunities to keep establishing the run. There's going to be a week where it's not working in this stretch here. And what I'm fascinated by is how Baylor's going to respond to that. How are they going to respond when it needs to be another 45, 50 throw performance by Sawyer Robertson? They did okay offensively in those games. They didn't win those games. I'm looking at Iowa State, Colorado, BYU. They didn't win those games. And it seemed like Sawyer tired out a little bit at the end, even as great as his numbers were. And it was one of those things where it was like, man, you got to help him out somewhere, right? You've really got to help him out a little bit here. And that will be good enough. What you've gotten in the rushing game the last 2 weeks is more than helped Sawyer Robertson, who, by the way, also had a good game in this one. You didn't need to do too much, Sawyer, but he went 11-19, 222 yards, 3 touchdown passes, did throw a pick, which was not a great pick. He admitted it post-game. He would like to have that one back. And it also rushed for a touchdown, by the way. Another rushing touchdown for Sawyer Robertson from 41 yards out. So long may it continue. And yeah, it might continue this week. This is something we're going to key on in this week ahead, looking at TCU. Boy, what a fun buildup that is going to be. But is this sustainable? I think so. And a reason why, again, they're not going to rush for 340 yards every week. Okay, don't get me wrong. That's not going to happen. But for a team to be living between 150 to 180 yards in rushing, that's going to be a good sweet spot for Baylor. You know, because that'll include some of the 250-yard performances like you'll see against the bottom teams in that department in the league. And you'll also face 2 in the top 6. So those things will even out. Right now, they're moving up to 176 yards a game on the ground. That's a good place for Baylor to be living with a quarterback as good as Sawyer Robertson, with a quarterback who just throws 2 or 3 touchdown passes every single week. How long have we waited for someone like that? And the reason why I think it's sustainable for Baylor's offense to continue to put up 30-plus points a game, you know, the schedule is what it is. You've got some not great teams that you'll face the rest of the schedule. And the thing that stood out to me on Saturday was everyone made a play. Like, yeah, it was Dawson Pendergrass's game on offense, but everyone made a play. And Sawyer highlighted something in the post game, which I had in my notes as well, is that Josh Cameron had 1 catch, but it was one of the most important catches of the game. It was a third down catch. He kept the drive alive. A couple plays later, Dawson Pendergrass is running into the end zone for the touchdown that puts this thing to bed. So did he have the best game of his career? No, but he makes a huge play. They're not even looking his direction for almost 4 whole quarters. And then you get to him and he's there. Matthew Klopfenstein, 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown on 1 target. You needed him on that one. That was a 3rd and goal from the 1. Matthew Klopfenstein shows up. Ashton Hawkins, 4 catches for 74. He was having a slow game into the 3rd quarter, and then he mosses a guy who he was just chirping with on the play before. 33-yard touchdown. He'll be on the SportsCenter top 10. When he was called on, he was there. Michael Trigg, 1 catch. Remember that? It was first play of the game. Went for 38 yards. Hal Presley, only 2 catches on the day. You'll say, really? Only 2 catches? Felt like he had a good game because he had a 53-yard catch, and then he had a 12-yard touchdown. That's what I mean, spreading this love. And so, yeah, it's the Dawson Pendergrass game, but Richard Reese has 50 yards on only 6 carries. These guys, they step up when you need them. And you're looking at an offense all of a sudden that you're like, this has some weapons here. This has guys who get open consistently or hit the hole when they're supposed to. That whenever we need to go to them, we can go to them. That has a lot to do with the quarterback, but it's everyone on this offense. And yeah, this offensive line, I think, has turned a corner. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, I think, in tomorrow's show. But I think it's sustainable because you're facing some poor rush defenses along the way, and you've got the quarterback and you've got people involved. So yeah, this is sustainable. Am I saying they're going to win the rest of their games on their schedule? Can't say that. I can't say they're going to go 4-0, but this is an offense that should be scoring 30, 35 points in all of those games because guys are buying into their roles. They're doing what's best for the team, and they are making it happen with whatever the game plan is week after week. So long may it continue. Long may it continue. Just like the longest or the oldest, the oldest homecoming tradition in these great United States of America. Great homecoming parade, bonfire, Immortal 10, stripe out, beat Oklahoma State, a team that was picked by some to win this conference at the beginning of the year. You held the best running back in the nation last year to under 80 yards in this game. A lot to be grateful for on this homecoming weekend, and a really exciting week ahead for these Baylor Bears, because then after we're breaking down the TCU game, win, lose, or draw, we're talking about a top 10 basketball matchup next Monday night. Can't wait for it. We'll have it all for you right here. Be sure to get in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about this game, what you think about this offense going forward. Can they sustain it? What is their record going to be after 12 games? And will they be done after 12 games? Get involved. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. Still more than half of you that watch these on YouTube are not subscribed to the channel. Let's get that up. Let's get to 3,000. And we appreciate you making it your first listen today and every day. We will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.